Isa. Haye obolayan baganagan uftan. First of all, my guests, our guests, welcome. This is Focus. This is Oromo community members, and you can have your perspective on anti-racism, which is the second seminar in line. We're going to have a lot of this kind of discussion with the community and with the people interested in this area. So my role is just welcome you, and then my chairman, Focus Board Chairman, Mr. Herrero. Thank you, Mr. Herrero, and you are welcome.
Thank you, Badwi. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Really appreciate it, especially this invited guest. Before I actually get into the topic, I just want to a little bit say something to my family or the Oromo people here. One is an injection for Kuleyanti here. Nama komisana gartani badirin ganna lama afsadi hisati jira magam yintide na magam gargaru jira. Yo wajin abande wa wajin gone agam takchala goru dande. Yo na mile ni to ko gore yo wajin abande na mahana nam suni sin jare sina office ni jabani kana wal birada ban wal birada ban wala gargaru ti. So going back to our topic, racism and discrimination. It's everywhere. It was there when I left Ethiopia. It was here when I came here too, right? Really the topic, what we're trying to do today, it's not that we become militant against it, but be aware, right? And you also have a part to participate in this, right? You want to overcome this. You don't want to buckle underneath it, but just understanding it, but don't blame others. Also to understand you're right, okay? So basically, really, it's all about perspective. What do I understand? As a human being, we have tendency to discriminate against the people we don't know. I don't know you, I don't want to know you, then you're really different from me, right? We all have that. I'll tell you an example. When I first came to Canada, I was working for 7-Eleven. I have a lady she's originally from India, but she's from Tanzania, Zaini, good friend, she hired me. I was working with her, and if she get to know me, I'm not anymore black, I'm her friend. So there's these two, actually downtown of Edmonton, there are two guys, they actually play for, back then they called Edmonton Eskimo. Every time they walked in, and she said, you know what, watch those black people. And I looked at her and said, Lenny, what did you just say? So really, it's all about really, now she really feels that I'm part of her and she doesn't see me as, and then again, I want to make sure some black people, when they say you don't see color, is different. But really, you just have to think and decide for yourself, okay? Now, remember it says, Shakespeare says it's nothing good or bad, it's just making so. I kind of switching back and forth here. So when we came this country, really we've seen so many different things, and we might be seeing something we don't like it. One jib bin fajira, one jala bin fajira. Garwa kumunutulal, when teach tumara kuna ilmina matlal. Agarte? You are makara discrimination if you take into discrimination, you guys know in our country, which is we are the majority, we've been subjugated, we've been almost enslaved, right? Because we didn't say anything about it. But here, you don't have to be. If somebody discriminates against you, you can stand up. You have a right, right? But then again, we don't have to be militant about it. We want to have to think about it. How do I make a difference? How can I talk to this other person, okay? So when we talk about discrimination, discrimination is everywhere, as I said, in school, a workplace, shopping mall, when you go on rent place. It does, it happens. But they understand. Really, personally, the way I look at it, when somebody discriminates against me, this is the time, 2023, you have a problem, it's not me. Really, the way I look at it, that person have a problem. It's your loss and not get to know me, but I would like to get to know you, right? The only way, if we make this home, remember, this is our home. Biyyi turan biyyi ta'een ta'e na fudhachuu qabna. Biyyi dhibeen qabna. Yoo ammoo galuu fedhan illee namni choice qaba. Laftan itti jabaannee, uf dandeennee itti jiraachuu qabna. When we're looking at also discrimination is so many different levels. For example, I can be discriminated as a black person. My name is Avero. Most people, they don't know whether I'm Muslim, Christian, whatever. But if you have a Muslim name, Badri Muhammad has another layers of discrimination. Okay? Ayantum Tedna, she's a female, she has another level of discrimination. If somebody also older have another level of discrimination. But really, so as if in the same society, same community, we are discriminated in different levels, right? So we have to understand that. We have to support each other, right? Because we have different kind of levels of the society that's doing that to us. Really, to me, the worst discrimination is the systematic discrimination. Unless I can see if somebody dislike me, if they say, but the systematic, the economic, that's the worst thing. It's almost like a carbon monoxide. You can't smell it, you can't see it, but it kills you slowly. So we really need to overcome this. How did we overcome some of this stuff? First of all, by educating ourselves, knowing what our rights are, and that's how we overcome them. Garwanna sanin jechu firu, jabada, wal gargara, wal qabadda, wal birda abadda, yo akasta male, laftana le khisa jirachun dandin. In the habira kam dugumame, who else we have? Only each other. Yo ammo gargarbane khanana kanana dam babanu. In Rafaide Fachuja, Faide Fachu Nubat Abuja, Lumar Bulianti Yawalinda Bata Walgargara, Akassan in Jeddah, Renegat.
I think what we are planning is whenever English speakers make their speech, I will reflect in of an Oromo on what is spoke. So Arero was doing blended. So yeah. When Arero je rehetuni dagesani, kayon arnanuti. Waa'ee shanyii wal qooduu takka loogii jedhaniin kanaaf asitti itti haasoynu kuni irra caalatti nama sodaachisuu, nama baareessuu, biyyittuun biyya shanyii wal qoodanii biyya kanaati jechuufi miti. Waraana banuufi miti. Wanni nuti barbaannu yes namni wal qoodaa akka inni ibsetti duraan dursee bifa teenyaan namni uumaadhaan bifa wal qoodaa eega bifa bira kutemmoo saalaan wal qoodaa eega saala bira kutemmoo amantiinis wal qoodaa kana beekuun hunda caalaa ammoo isa dhufee gartee ati gurraacha takkaa'u ati dubartii takkaa'u ati islaama siin jeesan caalaa kan kara diinagdeetiin kara hin beekamneen hawaasa kana miidhu kan warri siyaasaadhaa jarri lamaan hedduu irra dubbatu jeetiin abdadhaa biyya kana keessatti wanni manuti godhaa jirru amma gubbaarra deddeemaa jirra sirritti yookaan waan kana amata baranaa guutuu dabarree waan kana irratti haasa'uu deemna. yeroo kana keessatti caalatti ogeeyyiis finnee ifillee bal'inaan irratti haasoinaa. Kanaaf barmoota wanni guddaan ifii barannee yoo namni tokko akkasitti qubasi kaayee aarsuu barbaadu ta'e shanyummaadhaan akkam gooteeti dura dhaabbata akkami karaa seeraatti dhiyeessita. Biyyi kun waa'ee Itoophiyaatii fi waa'ee asiitii wal maddii qabee jira reeroo. Biyyumatti dhalanne keessattuu shanyii wal qooduun numa ture numa jira. Haa ta'u immoo gaaruminni biyya kanaa nama sitti yakke tokko seera duratti firraa dhoowwuu dandeessaa. Biyya teenyatti immoo sun hin jiru. Kanaatu garaagara. Inni biraa biyyi kun biyya keenya jaalannus jibbinus ilmaan itti horaa jirra itti qubachaa jirra. Biyya kana keessatti waan nuuf ta'u argachuun mirga keenya argachuun mirga namaa kabajuun qubachuun akkuma reefuu dhiifama naa godhaati waan sheemuusaa su'aalaatu je'ee ishee jamarree funduu hime san yeroo hedduu waa afur nuu kaasanii afran keessaa meeqa walii himaa turre isinuu numa beektan. Garii himamaan turre. Gariin himamaan turin keessaa tokko kaniina nama wanna jiru biyya tanatti diinagdee horadhaa qabaadhaa kan jiru walitti himaatis hin turre irratti waliinis dalagaatis hin jiru. Amma dura yoggamee eebbumaa an yeroo hedduu dhageeffachaan ture rabbi barmoota gaarii sii kennee dalagaa gaarii sii haa kennu biyya kana keessatti yeroo hedduu hin dhageenyu. Bakka rabbi sheeka keenyaas nuu fidee akkanumaa wajji wanni tokko wanni isin hin jiru ganama kana nu ziyaaranii waan nu dalagnus ilaalanii eebbisanii akkasumatti booda obbo Umar yaada tokko ni kaasaa dirqama tokko mana kanarra kennanii kutan jechuun tiima fookas irratti waan tokkoon isinirraa barbaadaa sannaa godhaa jedhanii deemanii isiisanitti amma booda biyyi kun hin ta'u fuula dura biyyi kun bareedaa gaaromaa nama hundaa'u kan hammatu taa'ati deemaadha. Shanyummaan Ameerikaa keessaas, Hindi keessaas, biyya teenya keessaas akkaataa inni itti jiru ibsee ture. Biyya Hindiitti namni gariin waa tajaajilanii akkama biyya teenya jaanitti kana akka wal qoodanii fi wal qoodinsi sun asillee akka jiruu fi dhiyeenya biisiidha moo isa bakkitti labsa baasanii hawaasa as biyya kana keessatti waatummaadha wal qooduun shanyii waata jechuun warra tumtuufaa warra kalloo tolchu kana faa isaan kana intalatti kennan ilma irraan fuusisanii isaan kana biyya kana keessatti Kaanadaa keessatti akka seeraan dhoowwamu godhanii labsa baasanii. Inni biraa hawaasa birootii wajjin jiraachuun isaan dhufanii nu keessatti haasa'uun fuula duramma hawaasa Somaalee, hawaasa Hindii, hawaasa adda addaa akka biyya kanaatii wajjin mana kana keessa teenyee dhimma kanarratti wajji haasa'uun fuula dura waan nuti irratti xiyyeeffachuu deemnu inni illee sanuma hawaasni tokko wajji jireenyaaf suni haalaan barbaachisaadha kan jiru. Shanyummaan waa hundarra shanyummaan namni wal qooduun waa hundarra badaa waan ta'eef keessaa'uu Turuudoo abbaan isaatii fi inni wanni biyya kana keessa godhan achi asitti yeroontu yeroo bayyanoota yeroo namni irraa ijjibaname yeroo mirgi namaa kabajamu ta'uu ibsanii jiranii hedduu haa galatoomanii kanumaan ja'a keessumaa keenya kaddaan dabarra galatoomaa.
The board chair, the rest of the staff, volunteers, the community members that are here today. I really want to congratulate you for making such a gathering to discuss such an important issue, which is what divides us and what makes us unequal communities. That is the issue of racism and discrimination. The other speakers have already spoken about the importance of the topic, and not only the important, but the implications of the subject. Many countries have had their own histories of when it comes to racism and discrimination. And many societies have had their own histories as well. I was born and raised in Somalia, but by the way, my mom was born in Nageyle, and she was 3 years old when they moved to Somalia. So unfortunately, I don't speak the Oromo language, neither my mom speaks, but my late grandmother used to speak. So what I'm saying is that back where we come from, discriminations exist. But we can't talk about it. The great thing in Canada, we can talk about it. What does that mean is that in areas where you cannot talk about it is where you have unequal societies. And a good example is where we come from all. Like you can tell that and you can see that how our societies is shaped because we have a problem that we don't talk about. Coming back in countries that have had the histories of talking and collecting information about will demonstrate and show you the implications that such wicked human behavior that contributes to our system will have. The United States is a good example. It's a country that was built on slave. It's a country that has started collecting information about. It's just one example. What does that mean? What it means is that the average Black American's wealth net is 17,000, whereby the average wealth net of a white American is 170,000. Inequities in such situation will lead into adverse health outcomes. A good example, the life expectancy of the Black Americans and white Americans has a difference of 10 years. What means is because of your skin color, you will live 10 years less than your white counterpart. So these are public health studies that show a longitudinal data to demonstrate the implications of when we segregate our societies based on their race. So in Canada, it's a country that doesn't collect such information, so we don't know. What we know is that there is systemic racism that will differentiate who benefits from the system and who doesn't. There has been no talks about the terminology of anti-racism before. There used to be, we started saying race relations, so a little bit softer. And then that changed into, let's talk about multiculturalism, how our different cultures shapes our society. And then after that, since George Floyd's murder, the narrative changed into saying the word of anti-racism or racism. So we're actually talking about really now. Over the past 3 years, the topic and the narrative has led into conversation looking into what we have. We don't collect information, but we started saying that whatever we collect, let's analyze. And then I will take now the example of the city where we live in today, Edmonton. According to the Statistics Canada data from 2016, the 2021 just came out, so I haven't looked into that. From 2016 data, the unemployment rate of black Edmontonians was twice higher compared to the average, the rest of the population. And children of black communities, of black families, live in low-income socioeconomic conditions is 3 times higher than the rest. These are the future generation of this province and of this city. So those are some tangible examples of what we see within our backyards. So as a community, we all have the responsibility not to educate ourselves alone, but also to educate our neighbors. To talk about it, have conversations like this, and see what can we do to live a society. Every single religion will say, love your neighbor. It's just as humans, we know what is good, it's just we just don't do it. Given that the number of Muslim individuals in the room, I'll use from Islamic perspective on what how Islam teaches us when it comes to it. Because of this discrimination and racism, because of your race, it exists all the time. Like, it's not only now, it has always existed as humans existed. So a good example is that, and I can see Sheikh Jamal is in the room. The good example is that Prophet Muhammad was the one who leads. That from a leadership perspective, he was the one who leads the prayer. In a prayer time, who's your deputy? Is the muazzin. The Prophet Muhammad's muazzin, among his followers, there was only one black person, and he became the muazzin. The rest of his followers were not black, were Arabs. But he appointed Bilal to be the muazzin, which tells you creating a society that is inclusive. Another example. Most of the prayer times have only one azan, right? Except Salat al-Fajr, which has 2 azans, right? The first one and the second one. So there were 2 people who will call the prayer. The azan means the call in the prayer. There were 2 people who would make the call for prayer in the Fajr. The first one was the person, the follower that I talked, which is Bilal, the black person. Who can tell me the second person who will do the muazzin or call the prayer? Abdullah ibn Maktoum. Do you know what he was? He was blind, a disabled person. Again, inclusivity. Making sure that whether you have a disabled or whether you are an able-bodied but a different color, you have a role, an important role to play. The reason why was because the Prophet was setting an example for the rest of the society, which we were all expected to follow that example. What is it called? The Sunnah, which means do what the Prophet was doing. But unfortunately, we tended to not pay attention to those practices that create inclusivity, that makes us stronger, that makes us, all of us, thrive, that gives the opportunity everybody to thrive. So I don't want to take much longer. I will conclude by saying that we are all people of this province. We came here as immigrants. We came to this country because of the opportunities that exist. A lot of people talk about the opportunities of the economic opportunities. That's not the only reason why we came. The reason is why we came to Canada is because of the opportunities of social justice that exist in the country. A lot of us subscribe from the Muslim religion, or we have a Muslim.
Asis Canada walgahee akkasuma biyya teenyatti illee uummatu rabbi nu haa godhu rabbi isin haa milkeessu isin warra akkana dhuftanii jaaramee keessan bira dhaabbattan kanaas rabbiin haajaa fi muraada keessan hunda rabbi isin haa gootu dubartoota keenya keessaafuu Ayyoo Foundation warra hogguu hunda nyaataa dhugaatiidhaan hoggaa nuti as dhufne nu jala dhaabbatan kana Rabbi subhanahu wa ta'ala ni danda'a Rabbi isin haa milkeessu mee amiin jaa Rabbi isin haa milkeessu Rabbi isin haa milkeessu ibidda keessatti yeroo kabajaniin nu dura dhuftan ibidda keessa gubattanii ibidda guyyaa akhiraa warratti hin gubanne Rabbi isin haa godhu isinii fi ilmaan keessanillee Rabbi isin haa milkeessu akkasuma nutillee yoo jiraachuu baanne namni isin irraa nyaatu hin jiru isinilleen ulfaadhaa baga nagayaan dhuftanii hedduu kabajamaa dhiira hortee bultu Rabbi isin haa godhu warra dubartoota isaaniillee haala kanaan nu qaddaman jee beeku Rabbi nu haa godhu nu dhiira kana Rabbi nu haa beeksisu aboo amiin jaa dhiira tana Rabbi haa beeksisu dubartoota kana gubbaa warra yankaarsinees Rabbi nu haa godhu dubartoota gubbaa warra yankaarsinees Rabbi nu haa godhu warra isaanii isaan warra gabaabatu Rabbi nu haa godhu isaanillee warra jaarmeyni duraa dubartoota irraa kaa madarasaan duraa iskuulli duraa dubartoota irraa kaa jedhan dubartoota keenya akka utubaa Rabbi nu haa jabeessu warra ilmaan isaanii biyya tana keessa qabatee jabeeffatee akka badrii sabarloo kanatti warra barumsaa addunyaatiinis guddatan akka diinaatiinis akka Sheekh Musaa Swaalaa ta'an geessifatu Rabbi isin haa godhu akkas Rabbi isin haa godhu wal isin haa beeksisu wal jala isin haa yaasu Sheekh Musaa Swaalaa namni waa afur hin qabne namaa miti jaa waa afran Rabbi qabaachuu akkasumaan diin qabaachuu wal qabaachuu waa keeshaa qabaachuu jecheeni kanaaf warra waa afranuu qabu Rabbi nu haa godhu warra waliis qabaatu Rabbi nu haa godhu wal jalaas deemu Rabbi nu haa godhu isinitti hin dheeradhu assalaamu alaikum warahmatullah
Sheikh Jamal hedduu galatoomi kanatti aansuudhaan ayyaantuun sagantaalee wal duraa duubaan jiran hundaa'u nu dhiyeessiti ayyaantuudhaaf bakka gallakiifnama ayyaantuu dhiyaadhu.
Hello, how is everybody doing today? So first of all, I want to thank Focus and Badri for hosting the second seminar of the year. Welcome and greetings to everyone here today. My name is Ayanto Abduro. I'm a fourth year political science major. As we all know, we are all here today to talk about a difficult topic called racism. From our last seminar, many of you have an idea about what racism is. Today we're going to broaden that perspective of racism. We have many special guests among us, Areo, the Honorable David Shepard, the Honorable Jasper Diallo, and last but not least, Mr. Sharif Haji. I hope we all gain a better understanding about racism, listening to everybody's different stories, perspective, and experiences. With saying that, I'll just start us off with our first topic. So today I'm presenting about being an ally. So what is an ally? An ally is a person who makes an intentional decision to understand, empathize, and act in the support of others. It is not a person's identity, rather it is a lifelong commitment and practice that involves reflection, rethinking, and relearning about past behaviors and approaches to constantly improve their self-awareness and adapt to inclusive behaviors. Allyship is an informed, consistent, and empathetic practice to uphold a culture of inclusion. This requires self-reflection, rethinking, and relearning past behaviors and approaches. What can you do, or what can we do? Engage. Engaging with our team or colleagues is by explicitly acknowledging what is happening to the Black and African American community, recognizing that it is difficult, and letting them know that we can come to you if they need support. If somebody chooses to engage with you, listen with an intention to understand. Not to solve, explain, or offer reasoning. Let those affected be in control of how they want to present or be supported. Engage with curiosity, empathy, and care. The third thing that we can do is avoid. Let's avoid comparing someone's experience with that of another, including your own. Continue to educate yourself on how to be better as an ally, as a teammate, as a colleague, and those who encounter systematic racism. How to talk to friends and family. These conversations may be very difficult, but it is important to people with shared identity and experiences to understand passive or overt privileges and racism. Approach the talk with empathy, compassion, and understanding. Instead of lecturing, ask questions. Ask questions that can prompt the listener to reevaluate their behavior, and always listen, and provide examples of better choices when possible. How to learn more about racism. So, to deepen your understanding of the perspective of discrimination and violence against people of color, we should be able to watch TV shows, read anti-racism books, films, and many more. For young people especially, reading and viewing stories about social injustice can be powerful to gain insight into what it really means to be a person of color. So I had a video today prepared for you guys, but because of technical difficulties, we weren't able to present it. But if anybody wants to watch the video, it's called I Am Not a Racist. It's a music video by Joyner Lucas, an American hip hop artist. So I'll briefly just summarize the video for you guys. The intent behind the song was based on good pretenses. Lucas stated that it is about suppressed feelings and that both parties have to be, they can't be afraid to express themselves. There was a white man and a black man, both having stereotypes about the other. The white man was wearing a Donald Trump Make America Great Again hat, and the black man was a stereotypical what we see on the news and how black people are presented nowadays. Black pants sagging, chains, gold teeth, and etc. To his point, there are many individuals that are afraid to have these brave conversations about race and racism because they don't know how to do it. Simply, if we know how to effectively and empathetically share our views on sensitive topics, and if we can sit across the table while someone shared their own potentially opposite views, we can have a better understanding of other perspectives and who they are as people. I'm Not Racist, the video I'm Not Racist has its problems, but it does show the power of human connection and the importance of sharing our stories. In the face of real and seemingly unmovable racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, and many other isms that plague our country and workplaces. This power seems more important than ever. The song literally makes the listener hear both sides, both voiced by Lucas. First, a white voice recounts a list of grievances against black people. It's a long list, but it does reduce itself neatly to they complain about too much and produce too little. Then a black voice offers a point-by-point rebuttal. The N-word means something different when white people and black people use it. Black people today are not slaves, but the legacy of slavery still persists. Trump really is bad. Tupac actually is good. Eminem taking a stand against Trump. These are all examples of what the black man said in the video. He also said that it is in fact white people who blame everything except for themselves, and so on and so forth. The video ends with the white guy and the black guy hugging it out because they both heard both sides of their stories. The video also ends with, there's two sides to each story, and now I know yours. I was really hoping to show you guys this video today, but unfortunately, if anybody wants the link, I can give it to you guys after the seminar.
I appreciate it. So your introduction, thank you for kind words. And I think the introduction was very long, probably longer than my speech is going to be. Thank you. I think before I say anything, as we are discussing very critical issue, discrimination, race-based discrimination, racism that people are suffering, like it's important to recognize and acknowledge that treaty rights. So I'm going to start my words with acknowledging that we are all gathered here on the traditional territory of Treaty 6, and the Métis people of Alberta share deep connections with the land. This is a very small acknowledgement, I think. I also wanted to congratulate and offer my warm wishes on your continuous work you are doing through FOCUS and organizing today's seminar. Badri, Muhammad, Herrero, and my friend Sharif Hazi is here, and we're assuming that we'll see probably David Shepard joining us, and all of you who has made time out of your busy schedules to be here, understanding how important this is, coming together and sharing our experience and talking to each other about this critical issue. So I did not bring any speaking notes. I did not know that I have to be that professional. So I will speak what is in my mind and what we have been trying to do in last 4 years. I do communicate in multiple languages, but I wish I could do in Armenian. How did you say? Oromo. Next time I'll take some classes. I'd love to do that. As we're discussing the anti-racism, we know this is the worst thing that could happen in any civil society, because it's not against the individual who is a victim of this hate crime. It is a betterment to the whole society. So, to my understanding, how I joined the community work, I think the clarity, understandings about the society and about the issues really helps. Taking on those challenges, working for the solutions, and finding the right paths. Combating racism, we need a lot of platforms. We need to have non-partisan platforms, non-political platforms, but we also need to learn this is a political problem, it is a political issue. So how we lobby and advocate to the politicians on the right side of the political angle also is important, to my understanding. This is how, I had issues with a number of political individuals, but I think I always find pride in this. As being elected or not elected, the most important was to stay on the right side of the movement or the work that was happening in the community. Racism has been political policy, public policy. We know it is not anymore, but we see the impacts of those policies still exist in the society, and that exist in the institutions. There's a lot to do at macro level, micro level, what is happening in the institutions, and how we behave in communities, in our homes, in our local centers. That is important. We also need to understand, because when we talk about the racism in America, the context will be different. When we talk about racism in Canada, the context will be different. In India, there's another level of discrimination, caste-based discrimination, that no other place in the world would have. So when we talk about racism, we need to see the intensity of the racism that happened to our indigenous people. I have a friend of mine, John Boncar. I don't know if any of you heard his name. He was an indigenous leader. I got a chance to spend some time with him, joined some conventions together, sat beside him, discussing his life. He was a residential school survivor. He wrote his autobiography under the name of Splitting the Sky. So he was one of those kids snatched from the parents. And he would tell me that when they got us into the schools, we were not allowed to speak our own language, mother tongue. And we did not know how to speak English. So anytime we would try to communicate, the only language we knew was our own language. And they will pull us out and stick needles on our tongues, so we should forget. So when they grew up, they also sent to learn to do household work as housemaids, house servants. And I think the owner's job was to keep him disciplined and teach him more civility. The first thing, his job was to come in home and give him a few kicks and slaps. And that young boy, he's looking at a clock, it's 4 o'clock. So he's finding a place where I could hide today before the owners come to home. So that is kind of brutality. These people in this country have gone through, and that issue has still not been addressed. As I said, it is a two levels problem. It is a political problem. As Mr. Roro has said, it is also, as well as we said, the understanding, education, awareness, and building these kind of centers, and the importance of these centers. There are also the political understandings, if I will not really go in political debate, those see the importance of building these centers, and those see these building of these centers are stress on the public. They call it spending. They don't really find the contributions and importance of these centers, bringing these people together, providing them a platform where they can learn, meet, share the experience, and mingle around, and help them streamline their experience to become equal citizens. We have our experience, we have our history. When our first generations and our ancestors faced the discrimination, and my ancestors tell us, and there's a history, My throat has been dry. No, I have a water actually here. Thank you. My grandpa moved to Canada actually in 1906. And our ancestors would tell us when they moved here as a British subject, because India was a British colony, they have signs outside the restaurants, stores, and places saying the Indians and dogs are not allowed publicly. And the people were not able to enter the churches. And the first Indians woman who passed away in Vancouver was not allowed to be cremated in the funeral home. They have to walk 15 kilometers outside the city into the jungles to cremate her. So similarly, they started fight against racism. They were not the only ones when they started talking to people. So they were not the only one. The many folks from the mainstream who thought this was totally wrong what is happening here. They come out as a joint movement based on the fundamental views. This is against humanity. So what I'm saying, as Oraro has said, it is also very important when you are engaging in community, building bridges, integrating your work. Also, when you're listening and when you're inviting to politicians, making sure those people who come in, they share your values as well. This is very important. I will just say a few things. I have a lot of stories in my community where people moved to Canada. They were highly educated, they had masters in this, but they were only worth doing labor in this country. Their degrees were not recognized. They have 2 degrees, they have 3 degrees. And even my own CA today who works, he had 2 degrees back home. He came to complete his PhD here, but that was taken away from him. He ended up completing another degree. Now he has 3 degrees, but he's lucky to work in my office. But these are the challenges we are here. So that will definitely happen when the vision of the politicians list and write in policy programs, immigration program exists to fill only labor shortage. Only labor shortage. We need to change this. We are humans. And that's why a lot of people, specifically among ethnic minorities, love maybe Senior Trudeau and supported this Junior Trudeau, because that was the era of awakening time when those immigration policies was moved toward humanitarian, compassionate ground, where families could join, where families could rejoin or get together. And, as an important city and equal citizen of this country, build this country together. So that vision doesn't exist anymore. So a number of those things, and I'm also the opposition's critic for multiculturalism and anti-racism. And in last 4 years, after the previous NDP government, they established the Alberta's Anti-Racism Advisory Council. And to improve on that work, we led and started the consultations in Alberta during COVID. A lot of stuff went through Zoom, couldn't meet in person, but thousands of people engaged in a number of consultations. Racism is harming people. It is damaging in many other ways. We chose to see how racism is causing problem in healthcare, education system, and in public safety, and economic participation and political participation. there are big problems. We need a public policy to address all these challenges. We are building a policy draft as an opposition, and we proposed many things out of those consultations to this government. And my colleague David Shepherd brought forward private members bill to collect race-based data that was declined, that was voted out. I brought forward 2 motions in the House that was voted down. And that's why I said, when those motions were voting down, all those people, like they were people of colors, and they were black, MLAs and ministers, they stood by their political lines, not by their communities and things. That's why it's important to have a clarity on political lines and when you're advocating on issues. And also encouraging all those politicians to represent in the houses when they go in the houses to their communities. And not only this, when we talk about Islamophobia, the Premier's office appointed a speechwriter that had 16 years of history on Islamophobia writing. And when they appointed the individual on a committee to write a curriculum that has a long history of Islamophobia, when they appointed the person responsible as a human rights commissioner that has long history of creating Islamophobia. So that was a very place where those people, the victims of racism and all sorts of problems, actually find a place to be feeling safe and secure and expecting the justice can be served. And the government promoted all those peoples in those positions with those strong biases. And none of those representatives on the other side of the aisle who belong to these communities, they were Muslims, they were Sikhs, they were Hindus, and they were blacks. They didn't stand. Not even a single time. Not even in their party platform, not in the assembly chamber, not publicly. So that is very important. I'm not saying like this is individual's fight. This is have to be a partisan fight or partisan struggle, but you need to be, vigilant. So where our problem exists, and when we are looking for the solutions. So we have added those policy drafts. We say we have created. We added on to the website. The website calls albertasfuture.ca. That's where we have added lots of other policy platforms on renewable energy and an economic platform, on the universal health care and the education, and along these, how to combat racism in Alberta. So I would encourage you all to do